Hello, beautiful people. It's Sindafam. Welcome to the channel. Today we're back again with another video, and this is from Turning Point UK. We're gonna be checking this together. Let's check it out.
So let me ask you a question. So in the CRT literature, what do they think of white people or whiteness?
Who would you like me to quote?
Kimberly Crenshaw.
I haven't read Kimberly Crenshaw.
She says
yet.
that whiteness is a cancer or a toxin on our society.
The concept of whiteness, the racial concept of whiteness.
Okay, so what is whiteness?
What is whiteness?
Yeah, define it.
As Kimberly Crenshaw would probably say, the sort of construction of privilege that comes with being white in this country.
Right. So what privilege do you and I as white people have that black people don't have?
Yeah, great question. On applications that are blindly judged, white-sounding names are often given the job more, they're paid more.
Not true. In fact, it's the opposite. There's black privilege right now. It's called affirmative action, where underqualified blacks are taking Asians and white people's places in universities across the country. True or false?
True.
Okay, so yeah, there's black privilege, not white privilege
I
in this
actually
country.
don't think affirmative action is how we address education inequality.
Okay, well, that affirmative action is still largely supported by the CRT regime. But let's get back to CRT, to the essence of it.
Sure.
CRT believes in one manifestation of its ideology is black-only dormitories. So white people are not allowed. Do you believe in black-only dormitories?
No, and I don't have to agree
Okay.
with
No,
every
you're
aspect
being
of an
fair.
ideology
Fine.
to argue for it.
So then what part of CRT do you like? Because they call whiteness a toxin, black-only dormitories, and if you want to talk about like ideological or intellectual sloppiness, the 1619 Project was...
I think it's very sloppy.
Okay, we agree. Nicole Hannah-Jones.
I think it's overstated, and I think some of the parts are inaccurate.
Okay, good.
The parts of CRT that I think are most relevant and, very factually, you can, what am I trying to say? There's a lot of evidence for them, is the fact that previous inequalities, such as the institution of slavery, such as our treatment of Native Americans, do in fact affect those populations today. And you were saying before, in inner cities, there's a lot more crime, and a lot of that is because of redlining and other practices that come directly from the mistreatment of minorities previously in this country.
So I want to make sure I understand. So black people make up 13% of the American population.
Oh, 1350, my favorite.
Yes, exactly. Why do they commit 55% of all the murders?
Super great question. It's basically a very complex intersection of race and economic status. It's pretty well known that minority people tend to be in a lower economic status because of discrimination that they face.
So then why don't poor Asians commit a lot of murders?
Also a great question. Asian people weren't originally brought to America on purpose like black people, and they weren't already present here like natives.
Wait, so blacks murder because they were brought here 250 years ago?
No, I would like to finish.
Okay, just answer. It's very simple.
I am answering.
No, I know, but you're not really.
I am. Asian Americans predominantly immigrate here for work reasons. They come from already wealthy countries. They're already wealthy when they get here. Crime is committed primarily by poorer people.
First of all, that's not true. Talk to anybody from Vietnam. Who's Vietnamese? Anybody? Did your family come here wealthy?
No.
Yes
not
and
wealthy,
no. Okay.
but not.
Yes
I'm not
or
saying
no?
they come
No.
here. Okay.
The average Vietnamese does not come here wealthy.
I'm not. Okay. I perhaps misspoke. Not wealthy, but a lot of the, you complain about it all the time. A lot of the immigration from countries that border us, right? It's sort of desperate people who are of a lower economic status, right? And they're coming here for a better life.
So two things. Number one, there's been more blacks that have legally immigrated to this country in the last 30 years than were ever brought as slaves. That's number one. Number two, you still haven't answered the question.
I'm trying to.
Why?
It's a complicated answer.
Black people are only 13% of the population, yet they commit 55% of the murders. Why?
Because black people tend to be in lower economic statuses because of
Okay, no, this
CRT,
is fine. This is great.
Basically,
so you think that poverty equals crime?
I think that it's highly correlated, and there's a lot of studies on that.
This is where we disagree. What an insult to the working poor of this country.
So why do you think black people commit more crime,
Well, first of all,
Kirk?
so let me ask you a question as my answer.
Go on.
What percentage of blacks have a father around when they're raised?
I'm not sure.
20%.
So
80% of blacks do not have a stable father around. It is the most predictable way to end up in prison, end up as a murderer or a criminal.
And
it's
why
not
do
a
you think that's
racism
a problem?
It's not a white supremacy problem. It's a fact that black fathers impregnate women and they don't stay around with the women that they have impregnated.
Charlie Kirk, do you think that happens more in the black community compared to others?
It's threefold. Number one, we subsidize single motherhood. Number two, it's culture. It's accepted in the black community, and it shouldn't be.
Culture. Okay.
Don't take my word for it. Read Thomas Sowell's own book on how black culture allows single motherhood to continue into a nanny state type practice. 75% of black youth are raised without a father in the home. 75%. Is that a bigger problem or not a bigger problem than whiteness, white privilege, or white supremacy?
They should all be addressed, and they're all related.
Okay, how is a white person to blame for the fact that 75% of blacks
Oh, individual white people aren't at all to blame.
Okay, we agree.
Yeah.
So, but wouldn't it be more like smarter to be like, hey, that this is not about systemic racism. Like, stop impregnating your women and abandoning them.
Well, the way to incentivize not impregnating women and abandoning them is increasing access to healthcare, into housing, into everything that we know increases those outcomes for people.
So we have spent $30 trillion on the social welfare system since 1965. Black people are poorer, and the single motherhood went from 25% to now 75 to 80%. So the more money we've spent on Black America, the less fathers we have, because Black women divorced Black men and married the government.
And do you think that's a problem inherent to Black people?
No, it's not. It's happening now in white communities and Hispanic communities. It's just the worst in Black America.
And why do you think that is?
Why is it the worst in Black America? There's also a cultural problem. There is, and we have to be honest about it.
It's just that Black people are
no. Let me ask you a question.
Like
the average music that a Black person in Compton is listening to, is it about contemplating the good, the true, and the beautiful, or is it about being a gangbanger and trying to get as much money and sleep with about as many girls as you can?
I would actually like to think I would be offended by that.
Do you think the average Black kid in Compton is listening to Beethoven or some sort of gangster rap music that glorifies gangster culture?
Silly question. Rap wasn't created to glorify gangster culture. So even though there is rap, I'm sure that's doing that.
You're dodging the question because...
Okay, I'm sure they're listening to rap.
Okay.
So you think rap music makes them leave their mom?
Do you think the cultural expectation in Black America is that you stay with the woman that you impregnate?
Within Black communities? I can't speak on that.
Okay, the answer is no. It's not. It's not expected.
Okay, and do you think that
hold on, in white Anglo-Saxon Protestant communities, it's a fact. Hold on. In upper middle class white communities.
Upper middle class. Say that part louder.
Yeah, upper middle class white Anglo-Saxon Protestant communities, if you impregnate a woman, you are looked down upon and we do not think highly of you if you abandon the woman that you impregnate. Mm-hmm. That's a cultural difference. Has nothing to do with money. Has nothing to do with anything except norms. And the norms that have infected Black America are destroying it from within. We need more fathers, not less. We need more dads around and less drag queen story hour. We need more young Blacks to be able to look up to role models that are not leaving all the time and are not just saying, hey, I impregnated her, so be it. It's a toxin. And if we don't address that as the root cause, it's white supremacy, it's injustice, it's economics, we're dancing around the core of the issue.
Absolutely true. And Charlie Kirk is right. That the issue needs to be addressed, especially with fathers at home. Because obviously now, people glorify single motherhood to the point where people willingly do it. People willingly want to be single mother. Gone are the days where some people are single parents by choice or single mothers. Gone are the days where some people were single mothers as a result of circumstance or whatnot, or or became single mother as whatever. But now people want to be single mothers so bad, they even create content about it to make it look good. But again, let's even talk about this, the fact that everything or every people's problem is just about white people. I don't get, if that is not division, I don't even know what to say. Because how do you think your problem in this life is someone else or somebody's skin color? It's not making sense. And that part where she said that people from Asia coming to America are already wealthy. Listen, as far as immigration goes, lots of people immigrate to other countries for different reasons, and best known to them, lots of people immigrate because they want the better opportunity for themselves or for their children and their family and all of that. But saying that they are already wealthy, do you think it is cheap to leave everything, or it is easy to leave everything and go on to a new country just to have a better life? Think about the things they have to sell or the other things. We're not going to dwell or talk about immigration because that is a hot topic right now. But again, my point here is lots of people have things that they want to do. But again, saying that somebody else's problem is about white people, or is to worry that white people is their problem, is what is not making sense. I mean, what is the division about? People have individual problems that they have to deal with, not about somebody else's skin color. If most especially for blacks, it is a culture thing that lots of them don't have their fathers at home, because I mean it became a norm that some of them see it as normal thing, to the point when they even grow up, some of them envision or some of them tilt towards that. So what is the problem? Talk about the, so it's a culture thing, but I mean, people don't want to address it or people don't want to talk about it. I mean, if you talk about it, then you are a problem or you are a hater. But it's obvious, it's evident. And again, talk about single parents or single motherhood. Before, some people were not single mothers as by choice, but now it is almost, it is a norm. So why is that? Why is the problem? I keep asking myself this question: what changed? Because back in the day, black people were loved. Black people had good family structures, good cultures that lots of people loved and wanted to be part of. So what changed? That's the question I keep asking myself, because everything now is completely falling apart. You wonder, like, what, where did it all go wrong?
I guess what I'm saying is, right, and you've perfectly actually laid out the dichotomy here. It is a fact, obviously, that black people disproportionately commit crime in this country. No one's arguing that. But you either believe that that is due to a complex intersection of social, economic, and like leftover effects from previous inequalities, or you believe that that is an inherent trait to the race.
No, I don't, because they weren't that way in the 1940s and 50s. Black America was one of the most peaceful, flourishing, fastest growing economically communities in the country. It's not genetic. You're trying to point something on me that I don't believe. Instead,
but then
Black
you do
America,
believe that it's
hold
not
on.
genetic, so you do think CRT is correct.
Hold on a
That's
second.
kind of what I'm getting at.
In the 1940s and 1950s, Black America was prosperous and was on pace to be richer and wealthier than white America. More dads were staying with the women that they were with. There was monogamy. What changed?
You're supporting my argument.
No, hold on. But answer the question. What changed? Did America get more racist since the 1950s?
I would argue there were more racist policies passed. There were more
Hold on a
policies
second.
dedicated
In
to
the
lining
in
off
the
those communities
1950s,
and pushing them into poor housing and poor schools.
Wait a second. In the 1950s, Jackie Robinson had not even broken the color barrier. We had Jim Crow laws. We hadn't passed the Civil Rights Act, and we hadn't passed the Voting Rights Act. Yet blacks were better in the 1950s per capita than they are today. So we have become less racist. We've passed more anti-racist laws and given more stuff, and blacks are worse than they were 70 years ago.
Yeah.
Why?
So you're equating here institutional and social racism. Social racism was certainly worse in the 1950s, I'm sure everyone would agree, but institutional racism occurs when policies are passed against people.
Come on.
Which can increase over time, and it did.
You're not being intellectually honest. You know that. There was black-only drinking fountains in the 1950s. We don't have those anymore. Well, we're bringing them back with, black-only dormitories. But we had, for example, in the antebellum South in the 1950s, we had white-only communities, white by law. We got rid of that with the Civil Rights Act. But it didn't, unfortunately. We look around, the numbers speak for themselves. Black youth are less likely to have fathers. They're not doing as well as far as economically. They commit more crime. So something changed. And our argument is what changed is three things. Number one, the imposition of the Great Society Project by Lyndon Baines Johnson of spending $30 trillion since 1960s on Section 8 housing, on welfare, on, all sorts, where, as I said, that young black women married the government and they divorced young black men. And then we also have had as Thomas Sowell and as Clarence Thomas would say, the soft bigotry of low expectations. And we have been afraid to get to the root of the issue or even speak about it because we don't want to be called a racist.
So what is imposing those low expectations?
Part of it is like white academic culture. I'll give you an example. I'm not saying you believe this, but Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, has come out and said having an ID to vote is racist. That is code for saying black people are too dumb to get a voter ID.
You're doing it again. You're simplifying a very nuanced, complex argument from the real people who are making it.
Is voter ID racist?
Obviously not, Charlie.
Okay, all right.
Do you want to know where the argument comes from? I can eloquently tell you.
Eloquently tell me why voter ID is racist or whatever.
Certain policies in southern states were proposed that would, I think the quote from the person who decided the case was, with surgical precision, target the times where black people were voting and make it illegal or harder for them to get that to come at that time. And then they were targeting the type of ID that black voters had and making that specific type of ID illegal. That is racist.
Perfectly fair. How does that impact today, saying that every citizen, if you need an ID to vote, just that aside, why is it racist?
Because we have to have, obviously humans are making those decisions, right? And so if there is still institutional racism and people in power that are racist, we can't trust those institutions to make those decisions without discriminating against people.
What institutional racism do we have in this country right now?
What you just named it.
What?
1350.
Okay, well, I mean,
affirmative action needs to happen because there is not that many minorities in these higher educations. or higher education institutions.
Okay, so you're being clear, which is then you lower standards.
No.
Affirmative
I don't
action
support
always
that.
does. Affirmative action lowers standards by definition.
I'm saying why affirmative action was introduced. I'm not arguing for it.
Were you asking me why it was introduced, or
no? I'm saying you agree that's why it was introduced.
Well, I agree why it was. I don't think it ever should have been, but yes.
Right,
I mean,
but there is institutional inequality. Yes.
Well, I wouldn't even use the word inequality. I mean, I don't love looking at it that way, but of course, white people generally are richer than black people in this country.
Richer and more represented in politics and schools. Yes.
Somewhat yes and
why do you think
yes
that
and
is,
no.
Charlie?
Well, hold on a second. Let's ask the question here. Represented how? So I mean,
look at Congressman.
So no, hold on a second. Are white people represented fairly in the National Basketball Association?
Who cares? What political
Hold on,
power
I
does
thought
the
we're all
national...
about fair representation.
Listen.
I think that it should, by law, half of the NBA should be white.
Great, fine.
And the product would suck.
Lobby for it.
Because
I don't
blacks
care.
are much better at basketball than we whites are.
What political power does the NBA have?
A lot, actually. The NBA reaches millions of people every day. They have slogans that people internalize. In fact, if the NBA had no political power, why would they have to wear Black Lives Matter on all their jerseys? Why would why would politicians try to get their endorsements all the time? The NBA is more powerful than Congress in some ways of shaping the minds.
It's your turn to be academically dishonest.
Hold on
now,
a second.
Sure.
No. But if you want fair representation, just to be clear, then why would you not be against whites by law being half of the National Basketball Association? Right now, black people make up 88% of the NBA.
Do it, great. Who cares?
No,
I don't care. I'm saying,
okay.
Right, so here's my point.
All right, fine. I have a shot, everybody.
Please listen. I
can play for the Lakers.
I hope. Do it, Charlie. I'll come to your games. I'll do it.
The point is this, is that merit should triumph over all of it.
Which is awesome. Okay, so merit should triumph. We agree.
Okay.
Okay, Charlie, do you think black people are not as smart or competent
Absolutely
as white
not.
people?
No.
Perfect. So they should, in theory, then be equally represented in positions of power.
Hold on, so have you ever read Discrimination and Disparities by Thomas Sowell?
Do you only read Thomas Sowell? You've quoted him like 3 times. I haven't read that.
No, I read a lot more than Thomas Sowell, but I'm happy to. Thomas Sowell's the only intellectual with the courage to go after like these core issues of why Black America has fallen behind and why no one actually has studied it. So let's just give a great example. When you don't have a father in the home, the amount of words that a child hears goes down by 60 to 70%. The amount of words that a child, I don't know if you're a mother or not, or plan to be. Okay. No, just it's an important point. The amount of words that an 18-month-year-old hears is highly predictive of IQ, verbal development. Okay, so that's simple. When you don't have a dad in the home, the mom is overwhelmed and there's just less interaction with the child.
That's all fine.
Okay, so we agree. I'm just saying that's not because of racism.
That's true.
No, that's fine.
That's good.
No, she, I know what you meant. But you have a father in the home. All of a sudden, they hear thousands of more words a day, and they're like way further ahead of a single mother raising a child. That's not racism.
Okay, so dads are good. Yes, great.
Okay.
My question to you
I'm saying dads
is,
actually answer most of the questions that you might have about why Black America is falling behind.
Okay, but
because their dads don't stay around, and that's
I'm trying
bad.
to sort of get you to reconcile your own beliefs. And if that's true, which is fine, that's true. We can say that's true. You either believe that has social and economic causes, or you believe that, Black culture is just worse.
No,
and there
I
isn't
think
another thing to think.
No, I was very clear. Right now, Black culture is being held captive by influences, songs, and role models. I mean, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B.
Okay, Nicki Minaj is causing dads to leave the home.
Hold on a second. I don't think that's a good role model for 18-year-old Black girls. I don't think that songs that are talking about like glorifying wet female genitalia is exactly. I don't know which one wrote that song. Which one was it?
I think it was Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but by the way, the role models of the 1940s and 50s for Black America were completely different.
So it is a representation issue.
Hold on a second. No, not representation. It's who do you get your art from? It's what values are they putting forward? It's the question of every day. For example, more times than not, Black politicians will lament the condition of America. It's systemically racist. It's terrible. What does that do to a 14-year-old Black kid if you just find that you hear that everything is rigged against you? Instead, they should be saying, hey, there might be some barriers, but if you believe in yourself enough, you can achieve in this country. It creates a form of social conditioning of low expectations, and that's not my argument. You know whose argument that is? Barack Obama's.
I don't necessarily agree with everything he said either, man.
Barack Obama said, number one, we need more fathers in the home. This is when Barack Obama didn't go super woke.
Barack Obama's a liberal. I don't care what he's got to say.
Okay, but Barack Obama then secondly, he said that we can't keep telling our Black youth that you can't succeed in this country. Anybody can succeed in this country. And Obama was right when he said that. Obama was correct when he said that
Right.
we need to change the story we're telling Black America.
Which is fine. I've never heard any teacher look at a black person and say, "Oh, you can't succeed because of racism."
Hold
Good
on a
luck,
second.
though.
But
Like,
what is the embedded message of all the propaganda saying it's systemically racist, you're going to run into racist employers, that they're going to discriminate against you? It creates this heaviness of why even try?
by the time college
Everything's
students
rigged.
get to college, they've experienced all that. They don't need to be told.
You think that the average? I'm curious. You think that the average black student at this university experiences like active daily racism? I'd be curious.
I'd have to ask. You can ask them to
I
raise
don't know.
their hands
I
if
don't know.
you'd like.
Maybe it's true. Maybe it's as bad as it was in the antebellum South. So
I'm not saying that, obviously.
Okay.
I did say
Fine.
social racism improved. I'm
Okay,
saying
to be
institutional
clear.
racism is still present, and that's what's causing lower outcomes for minority communities.
Do you think the reason why only 20 to 25%, it depends, we don't know the number, it's just a range per year.
Sure.
So 1 in 4 of black youth have a stable father around. What would you just say is the big, why is that the reason?
A complex intersection of social and economic reasons, which are outlined in CRT.
Okay. Thank you for the dialogue. Thank you.
Okay.
This is the problem. The typical liberals don't listen to understand, they listen to respond and attack, because obviously in America, lots of people are being told or are being taught, especially in the black community or black homes, told or taught that somebody somewhere is the reason why you're not going to succeed, or they push victimhood or whatever and divide people by race or skin color and make it like race or your skin color is a big issue, is a problem. When you constantly keep telling somebody from their when they are young, that think like a victim, or to think like a victim, or something is wrong somewhere, especially with your skin color and all of that, somebody somewhere hates you, or somebody somewhere did this to your ancestors and all of that story, that is what the person continuously think of their environment and would be groomed into. That's why you get lots of people always um think that they are victims, or think like the system is rigged against them. Yes, do we have racist people? Yes, we do. But again, those things can be conquered. But how do you bypass, or how do you do that? By constantly uplifting people. But again, there are people who don't, if we're being honest, there are people who don't want you to grow like them, or there are people who don't want you to grow, so they'll find every reasons to hinder you or to keep you down. And this is what we see, is a common practice, what we see. And again, you have to beat that. But when some people grew up to seeing some things as normal, when they go to the outside world, if they see something completely different, or experience something completely different, it becomes new and strange. Whereby people who grew up in a single parent household, when they see two parents together, some people, the first thing in their mind doesn't occur to say it is normal. Some people will think it is not normal, because that is not what they are used to, especially if they are from an environment that has lots of those. So those can be corrected. But it seems like people now want racism to be kept alive more than the ancestors who fought to kill racism. That's why people bring laws to divide people, because lots of people, there are people who don't want unity or want people to unify, and always make references to skin color. But I would love your thoughts and your contribution in the comments below. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe.